Have you ever asked yourself, why do I get angry so easily? Not just annoyed, but truly triggered, as if your entire sense of control vanishes in seconds? You're not broken. You're conditioned. Anger for most men is not a flaw. It's a habit, a reflex, a script we've been running for decades without questioning. But here's what the Stoics knew. You are not your reactions. You are the space before the reaction, and that space can grow. Stoic philosophy teaches that what angers us is never the thing itself, but how we interpret it. That moment you snap, it's not power, it's a loop. And if you built it, you can dismantle it. In this video, you'll learn how to break the cycle, step by step, how to pause, reframe, let go, and respond from strength, not survival. You're not alone in this. Every man who carries pressure, work, family, pride, has felt the burn of unspoken frustration. But the cost of letting anger drive your life? It's too high. This is where we begin again, with awareness, with clarity, with self-mastery, the Stoic way. So if you're ready to stop reacting and start leading, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs it. Because the real strength is in your control. Let's reclaim it together. 1. Catch the habit by naming it clearly. You weren't born angry. Somewhere along the way, you just got really good at it. A sharp tone from your boss, a driver who cuts you off, a disrespectful comment from someone who barely knows you. And before your mind catches up, you've already snapped, raised your voice, slammed the door, said something you regret. Most men don't realize it, but anger isn't some uncontrollable force that storms in from nowhere. It's a habit, a learned pattern, a well-worn groove in your nervous system that gets triggered the same way every time. And the worst part? You often don't even notice the moment it begins. Stoic philosophy starts here, with awareness. You cannot master what you do not see. The Stoics didn't say, don't feel anything. They said, feel it, then take command. And that command begins when you stop saying, I'm just an angry person, and start saying, this is a reaction I've repeated. I don't have to repeat it again. Think about the last time you got angry. Not just annoyed, but genuinely fired up. Maybe it was when someone questioned your intelligence in front of others, or when your teenager slammed a door and walked away mid-sentence. What set you off wasn't just the act, it was the story you told yourself in that split second. They're disrespecting me. They don't value what I say. I'm losing control. But pause right here. That moment, the flash between stimulus and reaction, is the most powerful space in your entire life. It's where your old script either runs or stops. And if you want to stop being emotionally hijacked, you must begin by identifying that exact split-second reflex. Call it out. Name it. Not with shame, not with excuses, but with clarity. When you name something, you disarm it. When you say, this is the part where I normally lose it, you start choosing a new path. That's not weakness, that's precision. And precision is power. This is where most men struggle, especially those who believe that being angry means being strong. That fire means fight. Raising your voice equals holding your ground. But that's not a strength, that's surrender. Because in those moments you're not leading anything, you're being led by your own unexamined patterns. The Stoics called this slavery of the self, acting out of emotion without reflection, speaking without thinking, destroying when you meant to protect. They believed that true power begins with mastering your response. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that realization starts here, with naming the reflex before it becomes a reaction. You don't need a perfect background. You don't need therapy first. What you need is a moment of stillness in the heat. A moment when you can say to yourself, even silently, this is the old habit. I don't need to live it again. Next time someone pushes your buttons, a coworker interrupts you in a meeting, or your partner criticizes your tone, instead of reacting, try this. Close your mouth. Take one breath. In your mind, name what's happening. I'm feeling disrespected. This is the moment I usually explode. That sentence alone is a quiet revolution, and you'll feel it, not as grand or heroic, but as an inch of control that wasn't there before. And that inch grows. Every time you name the storm, you become the eye of it. Every time you pause, you reclaim space from a lifetime of reaction. And in that space, something rare begins to form. A stillness, a choice, A man not driven by emotion, but directed by intention. That's Stoic power. And it starts with 5 words. This is just a habit. You can master it. And that is your greatest win. 2. Ask what you're truly reacting to. You think you're angry because of what happened. But what if the truth is deeper? What if you're not reacting to the situation itself, but to what it represents to you? Anger almost never arrives alone. It walks in with old wounds, silent expectations, and stories we've been telling ourselves since boyhood. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly you're boiling inside. Not because the moment truly matters, but because, in that split second, it triggers something older. The need to be respected, to not be dismissed, to matter. The Stoics were clear about this. They taught that we're not disturbed by events, but by the opinions we hold about them. The real fire isn't outside. It's the judgment we assign. You're not mad because your coworker interrupted you. You're mad because you believed it meant he doesn't value your voice. You're not enraged because your partner forgot something important. You're enraged because you told yourself it means she doesn't care. This is the danger of unexamined expectations. They become invisible rules for the world to follow. Rules that no one agreed to but you. When people break them, even unknowingly, your emotional fuse lights up. But here's the shift. What if instead of reacting to the surface, you paused and asked yourself, what am I really reacting to right now? Imagine this. You're in a meeting, presenting your idea. A colleague cuts in with a smirk and offers a different suggestion. You feel heat rising. Your jaw clenches. In your mind you hear, he's undermining me. He's showing me up in front of everyone. Now pause. What if that interpretation isn't the only one? What if he's nervous? What if he just wanted to be heard? What if none of this is about you? This is not about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from unnecessary pain. Because when you attach your self-worth to how others act, you become a slave to their moods, their flaws, and their immaturity. And the Stoics refuse that kind of emotional dependence. They believe dignity begins where reactivity ends. You don't need to absorb every slight. You don't need to believe every story your ego tells you in a moment of heat. You need to step back, zoom out, and ask better questions. But let's be honest, this is hard. Especially when your identity is wrapped around being respected. Especially when you've spent a lifetime being told that real men stand up for themselves instantly, loudly, aggressively. That silence means weakness. That letting it go means losing. Stoicism says the opposite. The one who can stop, observe, and choose how to respond isn't weak. He's free. And freedom is strength. So how do you start doing this in real life? Right in the middle of the storm? Simple. Ask. When that heat comes, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Say it in your head like a command. Then breathe. Even 1 second of this practice can reset everything. In that moment, you give yourself a gift. The power to interrupt the script. Because the truth is, most of your anger isn't about the moment. It's about what the moment meant to you. And meaning is flexible. Meaning can be redefined. That's your work. That's where control begins. The next time you feel the wave coming, remember, the trigger isn't always the truth. Step back, investigate, reclaim the space. This is how a Stoic thinks, not just to survive pressure, but to move through it without being owned by it. You can do that too. And when you do, you'll see what used to hijack your peace now becomes your training ground. And every time you choose clarity over impulse, you reinforce the kind of man you're becoming. You can make that choice. And that's the kind of power no one can take from you. 3. Train the pause before you react. There's a moment, so brief you almost miss it, between the thing that triggers you and the way you respond. That moment is everything. Because in that small space you either break the cycle or repeat the damage. Most men don't realize they even have a choice. Something happens, someone crosses a line, and your reaction feels automatic, like a switch you didn't flip yourself. 1 second, you're fine. Next, your voice is rising, your jaw is tight, and every muscle in your body is preparing for a fight that may not even be worth it. This isn't a strength. This is a habit. And the only way to break it is to train something stronger. The pause. The Stoics didn't teach emotional suppression. They taught emotional precision. Self-control isn't about being numb. It's about choosing your response so clearly that no one else gets to decide who you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. What that means in real life is simple. The traffic jam doesn't control you. The rude comment doesn't control you. Your past doesn't control you. The pause does. Picture this. You're in the parking lot after a long day. You've backed out slowly, carefully. Someone speeds past behind you and slams their horn like you just committed a crime. You grip the steering wheel. You feel that fire rising. You want to shout, to gesture, to show you're not someone to mess with, but instead you stop. You take one breath. In that breath, you do something radical. You let the storm pass. You don't take the bait, and you feel it. The surge begins to soften. This isn't weakness, it's training. Because no one teaches men how to pause. We're told to react, defend, and dominate. But Stoicism says no, real power is in restraint. Reacting is easy, responding takes strength, and strength is built like a muscle, through repetition. That pause, when practiced, becomes reflex. The more you choose it, the easier it gets. The more you choose calm, the more calm chooses you. What stops most men is the false belief that calm is passive, that if you don't push back, you've lost. But silence is not surrender. Stillness is not submission. It's a strategy. When you pause, you regain clarity. You see the situation, not through adrenaline, but through awareness. You remember who you are, not just someone reacting to the world, but someone shaping their place in it. This isn't about letting things slide. It's about picking your battles with wisdom. It's about not letting a 10-second insult ruin a 10-year reputation. And this pause, this one breath, is your shield. It protects your peace. It protects your dignity. It gives you time to ask, is this even worth it? Often it's not. And the more you practice that question, the less you get dragged into fights that don't deserve your energy. Here's the practice. Next time you feel triggered, close your mouth. Breathe through your nose. Anchor your awareness in the body, not the mind. Feel your feet on the ground. Count 3 seconds silently. Then decide. Decide if the version of you that reacts is the version you want to be remembered for, because every reaction writes your character in real time. That's what the Stoics knew. You're never forced to respond like yesterday. You can train your pause. You can rewrite the habit. And in doing that, you stop being someone who's driven by the heat and start being someone who owns the flame. You can do that. And when you do, you'll discover that nothing, no insult, no pressure, no offense, can shake a man who's mastered the space between. You can master that space, and that is the greatest power you'll ever have. 4. Shift the story in your head. It's not just what happens to you that stirs your anger. It's the way you explain it to yourself. And sometimes the story is more dangerous than the situation. You walk into a room, nod at someone, and they don't even look up. You feel it immediately. Disrespected, invisible, insulted. You start building the narrative fast. He's ignoring me on purpose. He thinks he's better than me. By the time you're sitting down, your body is tense, your mind is racing, and nothing else in the room really matters. But let's pause right there. Did he ignore you, or was he distracted? Did he snub you, or did your ego fill in the blanks? This is where anger hides best, in the invisible assumptions. And most men carry these assumptions like armor. We think we're reacting to the facts, but often we're reacting to meanings we invented. The Stoics were brutal in calling this out. Epictetus said it clearly. It's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about them. The meaning is the trigger, not the moment. What if your interpretation isn't the truth? What if it's just one version of the story? The dangerous version. The version that makes you the victim, the disrespected, the betrayed. That story may feel familiar, but that doesn't make it right. You've probably run it so many times that it plays in your mind without effort. It's become your default. But here's the powerful shift. If you can narrate the story, you can rewrite it. Let's make this real. Imagine you send a message to your brother about something important. He leaves it on read for 2 days. You feel brushed off, forgotten. You tell yourself, he doesn't care, he doesn't respect my time. And now, even if he replies, your tone is already defensive. Your walls are up. You've created a story, but step back. What if he's overwhelmed? What if he read it, meant to reply, but got buried in deadlines and forgot? What if his silence wasn't about you at all? This is the brutal clarity Stoicism demands. It doesn't excuse others, but it stops you from turning every delay, every look, every word into a personal attack. It breaks the habit of assuming the worst and reacting to a lie. And that shift, that refusal to blindly believe the first story your mind offers, is where emotional discipline begins. The mistake many men make is thinking they must defend their story to keep their pride intact. They think backing down from the narrative means being weak. But Stoicism shows you another form of pride, the kind that doesn't flinch when your version of reality is challenged, the kind that's humble enough to ask, "Am I sure this is true?" and strong enough to say, "Even if it is, I don't have to react." This is a mental habit worth building. Every time you feel disrespected, start asking deeper questions. What am I telling myself right now? Is it possible there's another explanation? Am I reacting to what happened or to what I've decided it means? These aren't soft questions. They're tactical. They're how you cut through the fog of reactivity and move with precision. The Stoics believed that clarity was power. The calmer mind sees more, feels more, and chooses better. That's not philosophy for bookshelves. It's a weapon for your everyday life. And like any weapon, you need to know how to use it. Start small. Next time something triggers you, pause and rewrite the story. Not because you're weak, but because you've decided to take back authorship. Because every moment you rewrite the story in your head, you reclaim your power. And a man who owns the story he believes owns his peace. You can do that. You can become that. And that is the beginning of self-mastery. 5. Let go without needing to win. Not every fight is worth finishing. Some are only worth walking away from, with your peace intact. Men are taught early to hold their ground, to win the argument, and to never back down. But no one teaches what it costs to always be right. You lose hours, sleep, dignity, and sometimes the people you love most. Because the truth is, many of the things we argue over aren't about the moment. They're about the need to win, to not feel small, to prove that we matter. And in that drive to prove ourselves, we give our peace away, one outburst at a time. Stoic philosophy cuts through this illusion. It tells you the only battle that really matters is the one inside, the fight between your impulse to react and your decision to remain calm. It doesn't say let people walk all over you. It says let go of the need to win, when winning means losing yourself. Let go of the illusion that anger makes you powerful. It doesn't. What it does is make you predictable, easily provoked, and easily manipulated. When someone can make you explode, they control you. That's not power. That's a leash. Picture this. You're in the kitchen. Your partner makes a comment, sharp, dismissive, out of nowhere. It hits hard. You feel that familiar fire. You could snap back, make your case, and tear down their argument. But what if you didn't? What if, just for once, you took a breath and said nothing? Not because you're weak, but because you know your peace is too valuable to lose over one unkind sentence. Because you finally learned that silence, when it's chosen, not forced, is strength. This is where most men get stuck. They believe if they don't defend themselves, they're losing. They think forgiveness makes them soft. But Stoicism reframes that completely. Forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. It's the quiet act of reclaiming your emotional territory. It's saying, I refuse to carry what doesn't belong to me. And that kind of letting go isn't passive. It's an act of discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't live in peace. He ruled during plagues, invasions, and betrayals. But in the middle of all that, he wrote about calm, about self-control, about not reacting to insult or injury with more pain. He knew that inner peace isn't given. It's chosen every day, especially when your pride is on the line, especially when you want to scream. The world will always give you reasons to explode, but you get to choose whether you let those reasons dictate who you are. And if your identity is built on control, clarity, strength, then every argument avoided is a victory. Not for them, for you. There's a line you can use in moments like this. Simple, powerful, disarming. You can say, I don't need to win this. Say it in your mind, say it to yourself, say it and feel the ground return beneath your feet. It doesn't make you smaller, it makes you stable. A man who doesn't need to win is already free. And what's the action? Next time you're in a conflict, don't escalate. Don't correct them just to be right. Just pause, breathe, and walk away clean. Not to avoid it, but to own it. That's what Stoic strength looks like in the real world. Not a quote, not a theory, but a habit. One that frees you from the prison of needing to win. You don't have to win every battle. You have to master yourself. Do that, and you've already won more than most ever will. You can let go, you can stay whole, you can walk away without leaving any part of yourself behind. You can do it. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's freedom. That's yours. 6. Choose calm every time it's hard. The real test of who you are isn't when everything goes your way. It's when nothing does, and you still don't break. You say you want peace, but peace doesn't just arrive. It's built, slowly, repeatedly, especially in the moments when you least feel like choosing it. And most men never train for that. They think anger is automatic, and calm is luck. But the truth is, both are habits, and habits get stronger every time you practice them. Which one you feed is entirely up to you. You lose your temper in the car because you've practiced yelling behind the wheel. You snap at your partner because your brain is wired to defend, not understand. You explode at your kid's mistake because you've learned that control comes through volume, not presence. And here's where the shift begins. You don't have to keep rehearsing this version of yourself. You can teach your body a new script, and it begins with one decision, made over and over again. Choose calm. Especially when it's hard. The Stoics understood this. They didn't live in monasteries. They led armies, ran empires, faced betrayal, disease, injustice, and still believed self-mastery was not just possible, but necessary. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to impress anyone, but to remind himself daily. Be firm, be even, be still. That kind of strength doesn't come from talking about calm. It comes from practicing it in the fire. So next time you're interrupted, insulted, overlooked, don't wait for someone to fix it. Don't look around for permission to breathe. You are the one who decides what happens next. Not your anger, not your fear, not your past. You. Imagine this. You're at work. You've been patient all morning. A team member drops the ball again, right before a deadline. You feel the heat. You want to say it. This is the third time you've screwed this up. But instead, you pause. You feel the impulse. You recognize it. You don't follow it. You take a slow breath, then you speak, not to punish, but to lead. That moment is more than just maturity. It's power, the kind of power that earns respect without force. Most men think calm is the easy route. They're wrong. Calm is hard. It requires discipline, clarity, and humility. It asks you to see beyond the moment, to remember what really matters. Your child's dignity, your team's trust, your own self-respect. Anyone can lose their cool. It takes a man to hold it, especially when every nerve is screaming for release. The mistake we often make is thinking we'll become calm people someday when life slows down. But life doesn't slow down. You do, and you have to do it on purpose. Stoicism isn't just about philosophy, it's about pattern interruption. Every angry reaction you don't give in to is a repetition that rewires your mind. That's how you build emotional muscle. That's how you train peace. So, what do you do next time? Keep it painfully simple. When the trigger hits, name it. This is one of those moments. Say it quietly to yourself. Breathe once, fully. Ground your feet. Relax your jaw. Let silence pass through you like a wave. And only when you're clear, respond with intention. That's not weakness. That's presence. And presence changes everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up calm one more time than you used to. One breath at a time. One trigger at a time. And eventually your default will change, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You can choose calm. Every time it's hard, you build yourself. And every time you build yourself, you win something that lasts. Control, dignity, respect, the quiet kind, the stoic kind, the kind no one can take from you. You can become that man. And that is the real transformation. 7. Act like the person you respect. You already know what kind of man you want to be. The question is, are your reactions shaping that man or sabotaging him? It's easy to talk about discipline when everything is going smoothly. But character is built in moments when you're triggered, insulted, or underestimated. That's where the real work begins. Because every reaction you give becomes part of your identity. And if you don't interrupt the pattern, you become the very version of yourself you swore you'd never be. Short-tempered, unstable, easy to provoke. Stoicism brings this truth into sharp focus. You're not just living, you're shaping. Every outburst is a decision, every pause is a declaration. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's not abstract philosophy, that's action. That's alignment between values and behavior. And that kind of alignment only happens when you act, not based on impulse, but based on who you're becoming. Imagine you're at a family gathering. Everyone's a bit tense. Your brother throws a passive-aggressive jab across the table. You feel the shift in your chest, the instinct to lash back, to defend your pride. But something inside you halts. You remember, this isn't about him. This is about who I'm training myself to be. So instead of snapping, you look him in the eye and simply nod. You let it go, not because he deserves it, but because you do. That restraint, that self-command, that conscious refusal to be dragged into drama, that's leadership. That's self-respect in motion. The mistake many men make is waiting for the world to affirm their strength. But true strength doesn't wait for applause. It shows up in silence. It holds the line when no one's watching. It stays grounded when others spiral. Stoicism teaches that your emotions are real, but they don't get to drive. Your values do. And your highest self isn't some distant version of you. It's the part that shows up when you stop trying to win every battle and start asking better questions. Is this worth it? What kind of man do I want to be in this moment? This shift requires clarity. It requires you to stop chasing validation and start living by vision. Not a vision shaped by what others expect, but one shaped by purpose. Who do you want to be in a crisis? When criticized? When pushed? You can't wait until the storm hits to figure that out. You train it now. You decide it now. And here's how. Next time you feel provoked, imagine the future version of yourself, the one who moves with calm, who speaks with intention, who acts with dignity. Ask yourself, what would he do here? Then do it, even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable, because that's how alignment is built. One action at a time. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to stay consistent. You just have to choose integrity over ego, clarity over chaos. You don't need more motivation. You need more alignment between who you are and who you want to become. And when you choose that again and again, you stop being ruled by your reactions. You become anchored, steady, unshakable. So the next time you're tempted to explode, ask yourself this: am I acting like the man I respect? If the answer is no, pause, breathe, redirect. You're not just calming down, you're building someone. And that someone is you. You can act like the man you respect, not someday, today. And every time you do, you win something far more powerful than the argument. You win yourself. You can master who you are becoming. And that is the greatest victory a man can earn. Anger doesn't define you. It's just a habit, one you didn't choose, but one you can unlearn. And every insight we've walked through in this video is a step toward that freedom. You've seen how naming the habit brings awareness. You've explored how questioning your triggers reveals deeper truths. You've learned how to train the pause, how to rewrite the story in your head, how to let go without needing to win, and how to choose calm, especially when it's hardest. And above all, you've been reminded that you have the power to act like the man you deeply respect, not just react like the man you've outgrown. These aren't lofty ideas, they're practices, practical, repeatable, and deeply transformative. The Stoics weren't perfect. They were warriors of the mind. They failed, they fell, but they got back up with more clarity, more self-discipline, and more emotional strength. You can do the same. So start today. Start small. When the next moment comes, when the email hits, when the tone cuts deep, when the trigger rises, pause, breathe, and make a different move. Not for them, for you. Because peace isn't passive, it's a skill. And like all skills, it grows when practiced. Share your journey in the comments below. Tell us which moment hit hardest for you. Which insight will you apply next? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And remember, when you train your mind to respond, not react, you reclaim your power. And that quiet control, that's what makes you unshakable.